People nowadays are spending the most amount of money on PC hardware, new consoles, new games. Games are €100, $100, £100 per piece. Per piece a game. Mario Kart World, a game only for the Nintendo Switch, is $100. And people keep spending these massive amounts of money on these games and hardware, yet the games that come out on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, we're getting them in a suboptimal, optimized way. More and more developers are leaning on AI-generated frames than actually optimizing the game that they're making. The first of many reasons for why this is so popular and prevalent in today's gaming world is the rise of Unreal Engine and pre-built engines a lot of companies use to make and develop their games. Because back in the day, studios actually built their own engines or heavily customized the engines they already had. So, for example, games like Quake were made on the Quake engine, games like Half-Life, Counter-Strike 1.6, Team Fortress Classic were made on the Gold Source engine by Valve. Team Fortress 2, Half-Life 2, Portal 2 were developed on the Source engine, a newer and improved version of the Gold Source engine. And these were perfectly optimized for the platforms they came out on. The orange box bundle, which came with Team Fortress 2, Portal 2, Half-Life 2, both episodes of Half-Life 2, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive aka CSGO came out on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, and were perfectly optimized for what engine they were made in and what console they were made for. And that's the thing, these engines were made with specific consoles and limitations in mind. But now, newer developers mostly use Unreal Engine and the Unity engine. Now, these engines are great, they're powerful, versatile, and absolutely have endless amounts of possibilities and no limitations. But that's the problem. It has no limitations. Its limitations are up to the developer. And a lot of the time, what that means is basically developers who make games in Unreal Engine or Unity make games on a certain benchmark system that they're using, and then they try their quote-unquote hardest to port them to PlayStation's mobile, Xbox, and PC. And the problem with that is, how can you make an optimized experience for all of those platforms without sacrificing graphical quality, bugs, crashes, and lots of other issues that come with developing games? The answer is basically they don't. They release them on all platforms, half-finished, a buggy mess, an unoptimized mess, and then pray that people who bought it for a larger price tag than it ever was in the history of video games buy it and have enough patience to wait for it to get better and optimized. Or another way game companies are avoiding this is using modern hardware to its fullest potential. But you might be asking, like, wait a minute, isn't that good? Well, not really, because a lot of game companies now fall back on DLSS and generated frames for their games to be actually playable. That's why, for example, Nvidia is much more popular and better than AMD, because AMD has raw performance while Nvidia is focusing on AI-powered performance, aka their DLSS technologies and such and such. And basically what this leaves us with is people having to spend even more money to buy games, and then having to spend even more money to buy hardware that can actually run these games, because game development studios don't lean on actually optimizing the game, but actually fall back onto the consumer to buy better hardware to actually run the game. And so basically now you have this big economic disparity, because a lot of people, a lot of consumers don't have those big beefy builds, or don't even have the money to buy anything close to mid-range, but have low-spec budget baller builds, and they can't run these newer, more modern, more demanding, unoptimized games. And this is a problem both for the consumer And the game companies actually making this game because they want their game to be more popular, to make even more money, but consumers can't play it because it's an unoptimized mess. And to add to the situation even more, game studios have deadlines and they now basically have to release their games on a cross-platform basis so they can make the most money that they can. And basically what this leaves us with is unoptimized, overpriced and overvalued video games that come out for a quick cash grab and then again release annually. For example, titles like Call of Duty, who make games annually, and annually the updates keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they add nothing to the game. It's still a buggy, unoptimized mess, but it takes up even more storage than any other game, because if it takes up that much storage, you can only play one game, that game being Call of Duty. Esport games as well are getting more unoptimized by the minute. CS2, when it just came out, was an unoptimized mess, and even now the minimum requirements for this game have been proven not to be enough of a minimum, but at least it's better than a Valorant, which actively discourages and bans you from using stretched resolution, which in many cases gives you better competitive performance and better performance, aka FPS in general. Or you have games like Fortnite, which were optimized before in Chapter 1 Seasons 1 through, well, basically when Chapter 1 ended. Then, progressively with time, the art style got more and more soulless and the game got less and less optimized, to the point where they had to release a specific DirectX level and performance mode for systems that were able to run the game fine before be able to run it now because of how badly optimized the game is. And I think, all in all, the biggest blame is on us for allowing this type of behavior to be prominent and to repeat itself over and over before games when they released on PlayStation 2, 3, Xbox 360, Xbox One, even the damn Wii and Wii U, they weren't expecting the games to get any future major updates. But now games have major updates, get major graphical changes, and when game development studios see that, they just released a half-baked, unoptimized product and say, we'll fix it later down the line, even though they'll lose more customers than they will gain with fixing the game down the line. So, in conclusion, boys, what did we learn? Engines are now designed for convenience and to get games onto the most amount of platforms we can, rather than efficiency and performance. Hardware upgrades are making game development studios lean on new AI technologies instead of actually optimizing the game for the platform which the game's releasing. Cross-platform development spreads developers and development too thin, along with the deadlines and rushing they have to do to actually get the game out. And the main point of this whole kind of video is that game optimization is not dead, but we are slowly killing it, or we are slowly allowing it to get killed without taking any action or saying anything to stop them. And by them, I mean the game developers, obviously. So yeah, all in all, thank you guys for watching this video. If you watched it through to the end right here, I would appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, and commented down below. And let me hear your thoughts and what you think on this kind of topic, because I do reply to every comment I see. And if I find your comment even more interesting, I might make it into a next video. So thank y'all for listening and watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.